Welcome to January in the Nature Journal. I'm going to flip through my pages while I discuss some of my written and illustrated entries, and share some tips on nature journaling for non-illustrators. First, I want to mention something I've talked about in a previous video, which is the importance of making observations, and thus the importance of writing your observations. Not all of your observations are going to be incredibly exciting. Some of them will be boring. The important thing is to write them as often as you can. When I started nature journaling for the first time, I made all of my entries in a notepad app on my phone. It took me about 6 months of doing that before I ever wrote an entry into my actual journal. But I kept up the practice of writing as often as possible, even if the only thing of note that day was that the sky was cloudy. That still matters. And eventually with practice, the amount of things you'll have to say will increase because you'll make observations with more ease. And some days, the sky is just going to be cloudy and that's all there is to say. And that's still interesting and important because it's something you noticed. I'll give you an example of one of my boring entries. January 10th. Trail camera footage was empty. I left the camera again and will retrieve it on another day. So you can see that the entry for that day was sort of a non-entry. Nothing happened, so I recorded it that way, and tried again the next day. I also want to say that it's okay to make mistakes, and smudge your paint and make illustrations you're not happy with. There's no need to strive for perfectionism. But if having a page in your journal you're not happy with bothers you, you're allowed to rip it out. I've already ripped a page out of this journal, and I'm much happier with the arrangement of illustrations I have left. You can even leave unfinished illustrations. Just paint until you feel finished, or maybe you plan on going back later and finishing it. I have one of those in here as well. I also want to include a few ways you can nature journal if you're someone who doesn't know how to draw, or if you're just getting started with paints and don't feel comfortable using them yet. The first is to have a journal that you fill with only written entries. This makes it incredibly easy to take your journal with you and fill it out immediately when something catches your eye. The second is to press flowers, leaves, and other botanicals that you see or write about into your journal. You can even make really lovely compositions with dried botanicals. Having a flower press would be handy here, or you could press your botanicals directly into your journal. The last is to use photography in place of illustrations. If you have a Polaroid camera, that would be the most convenient photography option, as you get the photo immediately and can write the date on them or tape or glue them in fairly quickly. Cameras like film cameras would work as well. You just have to wait a bit before putting them in the journal. Or if you're not a fan of writing entries, you can use the dried botanicals or photographs methods in lieu of writing. I also want to quickly mention, in addition to making observations, if you're someone who prefers creative writing or poetry, you can put that in your journal as well. I have some examples of that in here. I love including poetry in my journal. I hope that you enjoyed seeing a flip through of January in my nature journal. And I hope that if you've been putting off starting a nature journal for one reason or another, you've been inspired to pick up that practice however it feels comfortable to you. Whether that's writing and illustrating, or just writing, or not writing or illustrating at all. If you've missed any of January's prompts, you can find the videos on my channel. My Patreon and Instagram will be in the description in case you'd like to see any of my posts there, as well as my Etsy shop if you'd like to have a look at that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week for the first prompt of February.